There's an entire generation of people who can remember the sound of a rotary phone clicking back into place and also remember watching the first iPhone keynote in complete disbelief. Psychologists and sociologists have wrestled with where to place them. If you were born roughly between 1976 and 1985, you're technically late Gen X, but you don't quite fit there. You're often grouped with millennials, but that label feels slightly off too. Around 2014, researchers began informally calling this group Xennials, sometimes describing it as a microgeneration because the time window is so specific, and that specificity matters. Something unique happened during that narrow slice of history. You began life in a fully analog world. Boredom wasn't something to escape with a swipe. It was something you endured. You memorized phone numbers. You rewound VHS tapes. If you missed your favorite TV show, that was it. You waited for a rerun and hoped for the best. Plans were made in advance, and once you left the house, you were unreachable. That wasn't stressful. It was normal. Then, right as you were entering adulthood, the world didn't gradually digitize. It flipped. Most generations grow up entirely within one technological paradigm. You didn't. Your childhood and adolescence were shaped by physical presence and limited access. Your 20s unfolded alongside text messaging, broadband internet, and social media. You registered for Friendster, migrated to MySpace, then eventually Facebook. You went from 3 ways to contact someone: home phone, work phone, or knocking on their door, to a dozen apps buzzing in your pocket. And you adapted. What makes that psychologically interesting is timing. Neuroscience research shows that the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and adapting to new situations, continues developing into the mid-20s. That means many Xennials were still in a highly plastic developmental window when the technological environment transformed. You were young enough to absorb new tools intuitively, but old enough to remember life before them. That creates a kind of cultural bilingualism. You can sit through a dinner without compulsively checking your phone, but you're not intimidated by learning new software. You remember being unreachable for hours and surviving just fine. Yet you're also comfortable navigating cloud storage, digital calendars, and remote work. Unlike some older adults, you don't instinctively distrust technology. Unlike many younger adults, you don't assume it's always been there. That dual awareness shapes subtle things, especially your relationship with privacy. Your most awkward moments weren't documented and archived. Embarrassing haircuts, teenage heartbreak, reckless nights, they exist mostly in memory, not on a searchable timeline. Human memory is fluid. We revise and reinterpret our past naturally. Growing up without constant documentation allowed your identity to evolve without permanent digital footprints anchoring every version of you in place. But your story isn't only about technology. Many of you entered the workforce during the 2008 financial crisis. Just as you were trying to build stability, the economy buckled. Research shows that financial instability during early adulthood can leave lasting psychological imprints, shaping risk tolerance, career decisions, and attitudes toward money for decades. So while you learn to adapt quickly to technological upheaval, you also learn that stability can disappear without warning. That combination matters. You became flexible because you had to, but beneath that adaptability, there may be a quiet vigilance, a sense that systems aren't as solid as they appear. Culturally, generational conversations tend to lump wide birth ranges together, but rapid change compresses differences. The years between 1976 and 1985 sit directly across a fault line. You experienced latchkey childhoods and relative independence before helicopter parenting became widespread. You solved problems alone. You navigated boredom without constant adult mediation. Yet you also stepped into adulthood during the internet's optimistic phase, when technology felt like a tool for connection and possibility. You embody contradiction without it feeling contradictory. Independent yet collaborative. Skeptical yet adaptable. Analog in memory, digital in practice. You remember what was gained: instant access to information, global connection, opportunities that once seemed impossible. But you also remember what was lost: true disconnection, the patience that comes with waiting, the depth of attention that existed before everything competed for it. If you've ever felt slightly out of place, too young for some rooms, too old for others, that in-between status isn't a flaw. It's the defining feature. You were shaped by transition, and that's totally okay. Subscribe for more videos like these.